Firefighters rescue trapped residents as flash floods hit Beijing, at least 30 killed. Firefighters were deployed to rescue dozens of residents trapped by rising waters at a nursing home in Beijing on Monday, as a powerful flash flood swept through the Chinese capital, claiming at least 30 lives and forcing thousands to evacuate. Footage showed emergency personnel working amid widespread inundation, evacuating stranded citizens using assault boats. Buildings and vehicles were seen submerged under torrential flood waters. A heavy downpour triggered by a subtropical high has deluged Beijing, killing at least 30 people and forcing around 80,000 residents to leave their homes, local media reported on Tuesday. On Monday, Chinese President Xi Jinping urged officials to prepare for worst-case scenarios and accelerate the evacuation of people living in flood-prone areas. Since the weekend, torrential rains have also battered several municipalities in northern China, including Zhejiang, Hebei, and eastern Shandong. "We're not free until we are all free," Ramaphosa calls for immediate end to Israel's deliberate starvation of Gaza at Johannesburg summit. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa strongly condemned what he described as Israel's deliberate starvation of civilians in Gaza, calling for an immediate end to the ongoing blockade during the 2025 Liberation Movement Summit held in Johannesburg on Monday. "We call on the state of Israel to allow food and essential aid in and to distribute it amongst the starving Palestinians," Ramaphosa said. "We call on the world to stop the murder of children and babies through starvation. Our position remains very clear. Liberation is indivisible. We are not truly free until all are free," he continued. It comes after Israel has closed all border crossings into Gaza for more than 4 months now, stopping the delivery of food, medicine, and humanitarian aid, and rejecting the international calls for ceasefire. Israel denied responsibility for any famine in the enclave, with government spokesperson David Minster blaming Hamas, claiming the shortages are man-made, which the militant group denies. Meanwhile, more than 2.4 million people in Gaza, including 1.1 million children, are at risk of famine due to the Israel closure of border crossings, according to the United Nations Children's Fund. Other regional leaders also used the summit to warn against the foreign interference in Africa. Those who seek to foist nefarious and foreign agendas in our region must be exposed and denounced without shame. African solutions to African problems, added Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa. Hosted by the African National Congress from July 25 to 28, the Liberation Movement Summit brought together leaders of historic Southern African movements, including ZANU-PF, SWAPO, MPLA, FRELIMO, and CCM, to confront foreign interference and promote regional integration.
We are one, sharing common values and ideas. Those who seek to foist their nefarious and foreign agendas in our region must be exposed and denounced without shame. Your Excellencies and dear comrades, multilateralism and the rules-based international order, as embodied in the United Nations Charter, remains the sustainable guarantor of the principle of equality of nations. This summit, my dear brothers and sisters, therefore, presents us with an opportunity to revive our Pan-African ideals of unity, African solutions to African problems. We should not borrow solutions from elsewhere. Non-aggression, peaceful coexistence, South-South cooperation.
We must confront the rise of the foreign-funded civil society organizations, NGOs, and economic warfares through sanctions and unjustifiable tariffs with a unified front. We must share with each other strategies on confronting the civil cause for regime change in our respective countries by some foreign forces through opposition parties and civil societies in our countries. This summit, comrades, must forge a cohesive strategy for a coordinated migration management, equitable socio-economic development, and the protection of our natural resources.
Drawing on that experience, we reaffirm our support for the peoples of Palestine, Western Sahara, and Cuba. We condemn in the strongest terms the crimes against humanity and the genocide committed by the apartheid state of Israel against the people of Palestine. We are particularly horrified by the deliberate starvation of the people of Gaza. We call on the state of Israel to allow food and essential aid to be allowed in and to be distributed amongst the starving Palestinians. We call for an immediate end to the relentless bombardment of civilians and the destruction of their homes, their hospitals, their places of worship. We call on the world to stop the murder of children and babies through starvation. Our position remains very clear. Liberation is indivisible. We are not truly free until all...
At least one dies as a terrorist take 287 hostages in Kaduna Primary School. At least one student died following armed perpetrators took 287 students and teachers amid northwest Nigeria's raid on the Kaduna Primary School on Thursday. Footage shows locals gathering at the primary school area welcoming military forces upon their arrival, as well as the area of the incident. According to a parent of 4, Muhammadu Sanusi, the police is not present in the area, leaving it without any security arrangements. We are calling on the government to please pay attention to us and see the situation that we are in. We need to help us, and we are entering the holy month. There's no way we are going to be able to observe our prayers in the situation, he said. Hadiza Mohammed, a parent of 2, claimed that her children were kidnapped during the raid and called for their rescue. The pain is too much for me. They came with a motorcycle and took our children away without any interference from police or community security, she said. The Nigerian government has launched a search for the abductees in Kaduna, Katsina, and Zamfara states. Parents and relatives of the kidnapped children have also organized searching groups and are asking nearby communities for assistance. In less than a week, there have been 2 mass abductions in this West African country. The previous day, about 50 women and children were kidnapped from a secluded town in Borno State. Raids have resulted in the kidnapping of almost 1,500 pupils in Nigeria since 2014. In 2022, the Nigerian government approved a law outlawing offering ransoms to kidnappers and penalizing those who committed the crime with a 15-year prison sentence. In situations where victims pass away, it also makes kidnapping punishable by death. Love Without Limits, Ugandan mother cares for 98 children with disabilities at Home of Hope Orphanage. Edith Lukabwe, a mother and activist who is raising 98 children with disabilities at a Home of Hope Orphanage in Jinja, has become a strong voice for the love and care in Uganda. Footage captured on Thursday, July 24, shows children playing, being fed, bathed, and nurtured by caregivers who treat them like family, not a burden. They thought that I brought a curse into the family, Lukabwe said. My firstborn Derek is the reason why I founded that Home of Hope. I gave birth to Derek in 2000. It was a normal delivery, but after 2 days, Derek felt sick and he turned yellow. He started convulsing after discharging. She founded Home of Hope when her son was 2 years old. Although he died at 14, his legacy lives on in the hospital and home named in his memory. It took me like only 6 months and I got like 25 kids, but most of them were just being abandoned. Right now, I'm a mother of 98 children. If I add on my biological children, then they are 104, she added. A typical day at the Home of Hope starts early in the morning and is divided into day and night shifts, as some children need feeding at night to keep their immunity up. Each one has a care plan. We check who needs therapy, who's going to school, Lukabwe added. Among the milestones Lukabwe achieved is the establishment of a private hospital, the Derek and Emily Memorial Medical Center, named after her son and daughter. was established to ease the burden of inaccessible public health care. For other mothers like Rebecca Mutesi, the impact is life-changing. I brought my children when he was unable to sit well, but now I see some improvement so that all at this time he can sit and crawl at the same time, she added. Uganda, home to nearly 50 million people, has over 6 million people with disabilities. Deep-rooted beliefs still cast special needs as a curse. Education on disabilities remains largely absent from the government-run schools and local clinics in Uganda, pushing many families to turn on to traditional healers. Media reports suggest that only 1% of the national health budget is allocated to supporting these families. From change to change, Uganda celebrates African heritage liberation from slavery at a Panafest. Traditional Ghanaian leaders and members of the African diaspora gathered in Cape Coast on Saturday to mark this year's Panafest and Emancipation Day celebrations, showcasing the nation's vibrant cultural and ancestral heritage. Footage shows festival goers entering the venue alongside traditional authorities with lively dance performances and dramatic reenactments of the transatlantic slave trade. Some of us want to see a time when Africans are not living at the razor age of life. We ought to live like other people also live, said Ghana's Vice President, Professor Nana Jane. That goes beyond money. It's about being ourselves and making our contributions to the world, she added. Meanwhile, Ghana's Minister of Tourism and Culture, Zifa Abla Gomashi, described the Panafest and Emancipation Day as acts of cultural resilience, resistance, and vessels of memory. At the heart of this year's celebration is the call for reparative justice, a renewal of systems that have long profited from exploitation, she added. Now it is 17th edition. This year's festival centers on themes of justice, healing, and the revival of African consciousness, presenting Ghana as a spiritual homeland for people of African descent. Emancipation Day, observed on August 1 in nations such as Trinidad and Tobago, commemorates the abolition of slavery. Panafest, held biennially in Ghana, serves as a cultural bridge between Africa and its global diaspora, often coinciding with Emancipation Day.
Panafest and Emancipation Day are not just commemorative events. They are acts of cultural resilience, resistance, and vessels of memory. They remind us of the tragic rupture of the transatlantic slave trade, the suffering endured, and the legacy of resilience and creativity our ancestors passed on.
And then ask you to borrow back what they have stolen.
At the heart of this year's celebration is the call for reparative justice. We must not remember, we must act. Reparative justice demands a reckoning of history, but also a restructuring of the future. It speaks to the need for moral, economic, and cultural redress, a renewal of systems that have long profited from exploitation. An act that has caused the people of Africa its resources, labor, economic dependency, designed to make African economies reliant on European markets.
Without question, it's long overdue. Everybody who has ever suffered any atrocity that the global community has recognized as, in fact, an atrocity, they've never ever hesitated to address the issue of reparations. Even as wars are being fought today in disturbed areas, people are already calculating the reparative costs and repairing that land. So why would it take Africa centuries for this conversation to come up, about reparative justice for Africa? It's only with Africa and people of African descent that it's a question. But now is the time that we must raise that issue and raise our voice. And that's why I'm happy to see that the diaspora has come home to this call, have also answered the call around this theme, and that our own president, President John Dramani Mahama, is the voice for Africa, along with CARICOM, along with the U.S., to lift up the cry for reparations now. It's been too long a delay. We want our young people, our creative community, our artists, to make their songs about this, to make their dance about this, to be able to have their conversations and their drama and their films about this. We must use every aspect of our creative energy to send that single message out about reparative justice.
The theme of this year's Panafest, reparative justice, is deep and is broad-ranging. It speaks to not only repatriations, it invites us to come back. It invites us to set up inquiry spaces around what it really means, not to get money for those who left and who died in the Middle Passage, those of my ancestors, from whom I am a very strong representative. I am a descendant of triumphant survivors. But the justice aspect requires serious conversations and commitments at all levels to equity. Equity. What does that mean? It's a very easy word to use, but the healing that is required in the repair must be looked at. The intergenerational work must be looked at. The opportunity for us to engage in the systems and the processes that govern our lives must be looked at. It's an ongoing inquiry. The theme must kick it off, and for the next 2 years, until the next Panafest, let us all come to this with curiosity, not knowing any answers, but be prepared to work into the unknown, because with every breath, with every step, we are evoking belonging.
Former Colombian President Uribe found guilty of fraud, witness tampering. Former Colombian President Alvaro Uribe Velez was found guilty of procedural fraud and witness bribery during a court hearing held in Bogota on Monday. The case, widely referred to as Colombia's trial of the century, has become one of the most significant legal proceedings in the country's modern history. The hearing, which lasted several hours, saw Judge Sandra Heredia conclude that Uribe had bribed imprisoned former paramilitary member Juan Guillermo Moslov in order to prevent him from testifying about the former president's alleged ties to armed groups. Under these circumstances, there is no other option but for this judicial instance to conclude that the office of the Attorney General of the nation has proven the existence of the punishable conduct, and Mr. Alvaro Uribe Velez's role as intellectual author of the crimes of procedural fraud. In a continuing offense regarding the acts referenced both those committed prior to the issuance of the non-indictment ruling of February 16, 2018 and those that followed. Likewise, with respect to the crime of bribery in criminal proceedings involving the witnesses Juan Guillermo Moslov, Pineda, Cortez Velasco and Carlos Enrique Velez Ramirez, the judge stated. Uribe was also found guilty of manipulating testimony in an effort to falsely associate Senator Ivan Capida with illegal activity. While the ruling is a partial conviction and Uribe's legal team is expected to appeal the decision, nonetheless marks an unprecedented moment in Colombia's legal and political history. Never before has a former head of state been convicted of a criminal offense in the country. Drums, dances rock Abuja as Super Falcons return with record 10th WAFCON title. Nigeria's women's national football team, the Super Falcons, received the Heroes' Welcome in Abuja as they returned home after clinching their record-breaking 10th Women's Africa Cup of Nations title on Monday. Footage shows the players disembarking from the plane, posing with the trophy and dancing with fans as camera operators filmed the scene. Supporters hold banners welcoming the team, perform traditional dances and drum in celebration as the players board buses and depart. We're happy. We won the 10th title for Nigeria. The feeling is amazing. You can see everyone is happy. Even the fans are happy, shared Christy Uchibe, Super Falcons player. Nigerian Information Minister Muhammad Idris described the team as good inspiration for everyone, for the president, for us in the cabinet, for everyone, for all Nigerians, calling the victory a big, big thing. We gave them all that they needed to achieve what we want to achieve, and with the support and praise of Nigerians, we were able to achieve it. Now the mission has been accomplished, stated Nigerian Football Federation President Ibrahim Musa Gusau. The fan said when the first goal came, we were optimistic. Then the second, before the third one, that made us the glorious day. Nigeria clinched their 10th WAFCON title with a dramatic 3-2 victory over Morocco. The final, cementing the Super Falcons as the most successful women's national team in Africa.
good inspiration for everyone, for the president, for us in the cabinet, for everyone, for all Nigerians. This is a big victory, and we're happy that the Super Falcons are, around, about to come now.
We give them all that they needed to achieve what we want to achieve. And with the support and praise of Nigerians, we are able to achieve it. Now, mission is accomplished, and everybody's happy.
But when the first goal came, we were optimistic. Then came the second, before the third one that made us the glorious day.
We are happy. We won the 10th title for Nigeria, and the feeling is amazing. You can see everyone is happy, even the fans are happy.
British Jewish groups call for severing of ties with Israel over Gaza crisis outside UK Foreign Ministry. Hundreds of activists from British Jewish organisations rallied outside the UK Foreign Ministry in London on Monday to demand a halt to ties and support for Israel amid the deepening hunger crisis. Footage shows protesters banging pots, waving Palestinian flags and holding signs reading Jews against genocide and stop starving Gaza, as some could be seen leading chants and delivering speeches to crowds of attendees. Responding to the atrocious situation in Gaza currently, in which the entire population of the Strip is at serious risk of dying in a famine, remarked an activist from the Namod movement denouncing the man-made starvation by the Israeli authorities in Gaza. The protester also criticized the UK government for taking advantage of the British Jewish community, using them as an ideological shield. They claim that what they are doing is in the name of Jewish safety. It isn't, and our existence and our protests are important to highlight the fact that you cannot manufacture consent for this genocide, she stressed. Another demonstrator described the situation in Gaza as absolutely apocalyptic, urging authorities to oppose Israeli actions rather than censor public dissent. We need to forcibly speak against it. The government needs to forcibly speak against it. The government needs to act against it, he asserted. Protest organizers Namud and the Israeli group Me Neged called for international sanctions on Israel. Namud also reportedly sent a letter to UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy urging an end to support and maximum pressure on Tel Aviv. Last Friday, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the crisis in Gaza unrelenting and criticized Israel's delayed approval of aid airdrops into the enclave as far too late. The Israeli army confirmed a tactical pause to allow humanitarian aid on Sunday following widespread international condemnation and reports of an escalating hunger crisis for many aid and relief groups. Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu denied that there was starvation in Gaza or a policy of starvation, with Israel blaming Hamas for looting supplies, which the group denies. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported on Sunday that 147 people, including 88 children, have died in Gaza from hunger and malnutrition, as authorities warned that over 100,000 children face imminent death without immediate infant formula delivery. The Israel-Hamas war erupted on October 7, 2023, after Hamas-led attacks killed 1,139 people and took over 200 hostages. In response, Israeli military operations have resulted in 59,921 Palestinian deaths and 145,233 injuries, according to Gaza's health ministry.
noise because we know and Namod, a group of UK-based Jews, that there are actions that the UK government can take that
I'm here today in response to the demo that Namod and Mineged called, which urges the UK government to enact serious, meaningful sanctions on the Israeli state now and to implore them to force them to let aid into Gaza. We're responding to the atrocious situation in Gaza currently, in which the entire population of the Strip is at serious risk of dying in a famine. This isn't a famine that's caused by crop failures or a famine caused by adverse weather events. This is a man-made, engineered famine by the state of Israel that is being committed in aid of its continual genocidal assault on the Palestinian people. We can no longer be used as an ideological shield by our government. They claim that what they're doing is in the name of Jewish safety. It isn't. And our existence and our protest is important to highlight the fact that you cannot manufacture consent for this genocide, and we will not allow ourselves to be instrumentalized in the name of a foreign state committing a genocide. We're calling on the British government to protect our right to our freedom of speech and our right to protest. We're calling on the government to enact immediate sanctions on all individuals and organizations that are violating international law. We're calling on a total end to military and intelligence cooperation with the state of Israel.
Grief and anger in DR Congo town as ISIS launched attack on church kills 43. Grief and anger gripped the eastern Congolese town of Komanda on Sunday as locals mourned for the 3 worshippers massacred in the Catholic Church by Islamic State-linked militants. Footage shows families grieving beside the coffins of the victims as candlelight visual was held, attended by hundreds of locals. After the service, distraught residents carried the caskets to a communal burial site as grief-stricken loved ones said their final goodbyes. The pain of loss has quickly turned into anger and frustration as it's the second deadly assault by Islamic State-affiliated militants in Ituri province this month, and locals say they fear for their safety while feeling abandoned by national authorities. The enemy had attacked the Komanda Center near Boliki, explained Soniao Malangai, Vice President of Civil Society in Rumu. This is not the first time we are telling the authorities that other precautions must be taken to protect civilians. When we bomb the west, the enemy is regaining all the strongholds to the east. That's why we need a way to protect civilians during bombings. We ask our military authorities in Ituri to develop new strategies against the enemy to protect the population. Every day we count deaths. We need this population that we are losing, he added. On Sunday night at around 1 a.m. local time, militants from the Islamic State-affiliated Allied Democratic Forces attacked the parish of Blessed Anurite, killing at least 43 worshippers, including 19 women and 9 children, were also taking multiple hostages and burning homes and shops. The attack on the parish of Blessed Anurite struck around 1 a.m. local time Sunday. Militants from the Allied Democratic Forces affiliated with the Islamic State opened fire, killing at least 43 people, including 19 women and 9 children, before taking hostages and touching nearby homes and shops.